So today I invited Laurent. He's a coach, mentor, a keynote speaker. He's also the former CFO of Louis Vuitton for South America. He worked in luxury retail for 10 years in 10 countries. He considers himself a nomad. He has traveled to almost 40 countries, lived in 5, and is still planning to continue roaming the world, collecting stories and experiences. So he's bringing a great baggage of experience that he can share with us. And he also received intensive Class A coaching and NLP development. And that's what's inspiring his own mentoring and coaching model. So let's share this different perspective from Laurent on fear. And I hope you find a lot of value in the session. So with that, I leave the floor to Laurent. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jay, for welcoming me here and for having me here. Hello, everyone from all over the world. It's good evening from my end, 8:30 at night. I'm sure we have, I'm connecting from Sydney, Australia. I'm sure we have times zones that are completely different from everyone. I would ask you, please, considering that this is a live session, to please keep yourself on mute. If you have any question or any interaction, you can leave a message on the chat and we will be interacting with you. Other than that, I would like to also congratulate you for investing your time and your energy to show up, for you to follow your curiosity, to understand more how could you free yourself from fear. So I would like to start by sharing with you a study that was published by LA Times. And in that study, they were indicating over 1,000 respondents that people are far more afraid of failure than they are afraid of ghosts. So once more, the study actually incorporated 1,000 participants, and it demonstrated that people are far more afraid of failure than they are afraid of paranormal. Now, on the other hand, I would like to start with the poll. This is going to be ideally a very interactive session where we will get to, include some polls, get some interaction, chats. Please take notes, and that's how you can get the most out of this experience. So the first poll that I want to be running over here, and if I can get everyone to participate, please, is actually related to the following question. On a scale 1 to 10, where 10 is the highest, how do you rate your level of anxiety today? So I'm launching the poll right now, and I'm going to give you 40 seconds or thereabout to participate. So if I can please get you to click on the screen and share your opinion so we can get a visibility of where you are at with regards to the level of anxiety in your life. Thank you for your participation. It's going to make the, it's going to give us a reflection of where everyone is at right now in their life with regards to the anxiety level. Few more seconds and I will be ending the poll. All right, so just to share with you the results here, it appears that most of the participants are between 6 and 7, which is a fairly high level of anxiety. In a study that was done that has shown that people who have even low level of anxiety have 30% higher chance of mortality, even with low level of anxiety. So what's the impact of fear on you? Starting with the mental impact on you. When you have a task that you want to achieve, something that you want to move forward, and you are confronted by fear, what ends up happening that fear clouds your mind, and it will be warping your vision, and you won't be able to see clearly. You just see that big beast that you have to deal with. And as a result of that, the fear ends up exaggerating the potential negative consequence that you have to deal with if you end up taking that action, if you end up making that step. And it will understate the potential positive results of taking that action. And potentially, it will ignore the cost of inaction, meaning if you don't do anything and you stay where you are, it will not tell you that if you continue doing what you're doing, you're going to continue receiving what you're receiving in your life. Now, what's the impact on your health? On the physical side, fear research has shown that can impact immunity. It could impact your cardio system, your gastro system, and it could also impact fertility. Now, we don't want that to happen. On the memory, it actually impacts the long-term memory. On the brain processing and reactivity, that function in your brain that regulates the emotion, it will attempt to disabilitate it. On the decision making, it would impact it in a negative way, obviously. Now, on the mental health, I don't have to tell you that between fatigue, PTSD, potential depression, or even anxiety. Now, I talk about the best version of you formula. Now, what does that entail? All of you live your life in a comfortable place where you know how to operate in the status quo. You know how to function. Everything around you, you to some extent know what to expect. And then at some point, you get confronted with this desire, this calling, this thing that you want to achieve, this potential change that you want to experience, or something that is not serving you anymore that you want to let go of. Could be a job, a relationship. Now, depending on how much risk you're going to be incorporating as a result of achieving this desire, you might be confronted with fear. And the higher is the risk, obviously, the higher is going to be the level of fear that you're going to experience. And in some cases, in most cases, in fact, people who experience high level of fear end up defaulting back to their comfortable place. And that ends up becoming a vicious circle that can last for weeks, months, years, if not a lifetime in some cases. And as a result of that, you start experiencing mental health challenges, anxiety, frustration, potentially depression. Now, I like to give example of everyday people that you would come across. So this is Dr. Sam Coe. Dr. Sam Coe is a classic story of someone who is well accomplished. He is a associate medical doctor working in a chain of hospitals, and he had a clear path in front of him, ahead of him, to become a medical director. But that's not what he wanted. That wasn't his calling in life. That wasn't his desire. He wanted to practice medicine in a very unconventional way. but he couldn't follow his fashion. So what ended up happening is he didn't want it to disappoint his elders. He didn't want it to disappoint his superiors at work. So as a result of that, he didn't make that step. He didn't cross the line of fear. Now we will come back to this, but this question, what would people say, the fear of judgment, you will notice that many of you, I have had this experience where your career has been growing and you're not doing something that actually fulfilling you. You're not following your calling. Your level of happiness end up plateauing while your career is growing. Who from you have experienced that? I'm going to be making another poll here. If I please get you to interact also on that one. And this poll is related to the choice, the level of choice that you have in your life. So the question is, from 1 to 10, how much do you rate your level of choice? Where 1 being that your life is determined by external factors. You don't have much choice on your life. 10 being that life is determined by you. You are driving your life. I'll give you a few more seconds. Appreciate your participation here. And I'm gonna be ending the poll now. So we have a great group here, as the majority have scored between 5 and 7, which is fantastic. You are, to some extent, making a lot of choices to drive your life, being on the driver's seat. So moving on, there was a study that was done by Dr. Alan Watkins, who is a neuroscientist. This study has revealed that emotion is simply an electrical signal. Emotion is energy in motion that is predominantly residing in your limbic system. So it's part of your, driven by your subconscious. Whereas the feeling, on the other hand, is the awareness of that emotion, is the awareness of the energy. So following this hypothesis, your emotion, which is energy in motion, if you are aware of that, it means that now it became a feeling. But if you are not aware of that, the experience of that emotion is a subjective experience. Now, what do I mean by subjective experience? It means that this experience is defining you. So if you are feeling weak, vulnerable, if you're feeling shame, you're feeling fear, you are identifying yourself as this experience. This experience defines who you are, because you are driven by your subconscious. And if that is the case, in many cases, people end up putting the cause of their condition on external factor, be it the economy, corona, anything that you could think about. And that's how the mentality of a victim gets formed. Now, in this study, interesting enough, it has demonstrated on average, every person gets to experience 12 emotions every day. on average, every person gets to experience 12 emotions every day. Also, the study showed that the total spectrum of emotions is far more than 12 emotions. Do you want to guess? Can I get you to guess and put a number in the chat how many emotions there is on that spectrum of emotion that has been discovered through this study? Let's see who's going to get close to that. So the numbers that I have is 100. Anyone else have any suggestion? What would be the number of emotions that are available on the total spectrum? I have 100, 1,000, 6, 220. Any more guess? 5,000, 50. Okay, well, the result is there are 34,000 emotions, 34,000 emotions that are available on this spectrum of emotion that any one of us can have access to that. But we end up living with 12 emotions on average every day. Now, if we go back to the theory and we say that emotion, if you're not aware of that, that becomes a subjective experience. And if you are aware of the emotion, that becomes a feeling. What does that mean? When you have awareness of the emotion, this means that it becomes an objective experience. When it becomes an objective experience, it means that you can objectify this emotion. You can objectify the fear. It is no longer defining you. You have activated your frontal lobe in order for you to perhaps extract that fear, extract that emotion that you are experiencing of fear and analyze it. Try to understand the root cause. Where is that coming from? Would that define me? And that's how you make your choice. And that's how you potentially can break the pattern of falling into that, vicious circle of fear. They say that in order for you to deal with your enemy, you need to identify it. Now, how can you break the pattern? I put here 2 methods that I suggest to my clients. The first one is the 5-second rule. Very simple one. This has been introduced by Mel Robbins, if anyone heard of her. And it's actually, there is some science and research behind it. And what it is, it's actually when you count from 5 to 1, so you're counting backward, you are actually disconnecting from the autopilot to your frontal lobe. So therefore, you are becoming conscious. So you are pausing on whatever autopilot subconscious thinking that is owning you, that is defining you, and you are able to disconnect from that. And then you also make a choice, as I mentioned to you earlier. So the emotion becomes a feeling. Another way to do that is via journaling. So there is a lot of study that was done on journaling and on the benefit of journaling, where it actually reduces anxiety, reduces obviously stress. And the way it works is that you are decluttering your mind with all the thoughts and putting it in front of you on a paper or a document for that purpose. So when you are doing that, you could declutter also the negative emotion, the negative feelings, and you will be able to look at it and try to understand it and go deeper and try to perhaps analyze it. Is that true? Is that true that if I'm feeling weak or vulnerable or feeling shame, that I am a weak person or a vulnerable person based on the facts, based on my life? Is it true? Very powerful technique. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a visible enemy is much easier to fight than a hidden one. So the first step that I follow in the model that I have put together to combat fear and procrastination is to name your fear. You need to know what you are dealing with. What is the fear that you are dealing with? Whether it's a fear of failure, loss, there is a myriad of fears that you can be experiencing. And when you do that, you want to ask yourself the question. So what is the fear that I feel when I'm being confronted with moving closer to that desire, moving closer to that task at hand that I want to achieve, but I've been feeling anxiety to move forward towards it? And a very important question, where else did that show up? Because you want to follow a string here that gets you to what would be the source of that fear. Another important point, ladies and gentlemen, when you are thinking about that fear, when you name that fear, when you identify that fear, when you think about the moment itself where that fear appeared and you felt it, all of us, all of you have this negative inner talk. I call it the saboteur. You can call it whatever you want. Some people call it the monkey mind. This saboteur is that same voice that tells you you're not good enough. What makes you think you want to succeed where other people have failed? What would people think about you? Don't you fear the judgment of others? It's important for you to dissociate yourself, because going back to the theory of emotion and feeling, you want to dissociate yourself from this thought and you want to look at it. You want to objectify it. That voice does not define you. Until you have awareness of that fear and the voice behind it, it will continuously define you. So I have worked with many people on this model, and I wanted to share with you what would people think about this, this methodology that I follow. Did it work for them? And what was the most powerful part? So here I want to share quickly a video of two of my coaches. Everyone can hear the audio? Can you please share on the chat? Okay. So just to fix that. All right. So hopefully we're back on track.
And I was one of the...
What about now?
Yes, it's good.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Let's start again.
And I was one of the fortunate, very lucky persons to have mentoring by Laura. And I have to say it was amazing. I think it was one of the most two very powerful hours of my life so far. And it was very, very, very nice. Very important to me. I think I learned a lot from that day, and I still read every time. The first hour of the day, I always read what we talked about that day, and I think I see the better self of me. That moment that I felt I was capable, I was successful, I was in my peak. You know, I belong to the world. And that's what I want to feel again. I want to belong. I want to make a difference. And I want to feel good. I want to feel I'm capable, you know, against all my fears, against all other people can think of me as a failure. I'm capable. I belong to this world. That was the feel I want to feel again. That is what makes me not procrastinating as I was before. And I have to say, I'm not.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Garcia. I'm Brazilian. I am an English teacher and a translator and interpreter. I met Laurent in a series of events that I participated called Becoming a Better Version of You and Overcoming Procrastination. Then I had the opportunity to have a 1-hour coaching session with him, which was absolutely fantastic. He helped me identify the source of my fears and my limiting beliefs, because we tend to imagine some reasons why we don't achieve success, and actually it was something totally different, which was so powerful. And I think it has brought immediate impact, positive impact for me. It was very powerful, and I think the most powerful part was actually helping me identify this limiting beliefs, which I would never have been able to do on my own. So, and he also helped me reframe all those beliefs and work on a more powerful version of me. So I'm very grateful for that, and grateful for Laurent for all his work. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason I have shared that with you is for you to realize that in the second half of the presentation right now, I'm going to be sharing several tools and steps that can be taken for you to potentially make an attempt to face your fears step by step. So I highly urge you to take as much notes as you can and try to follow this methodology. But before you might be asking yourself, what qualifies me to talk about fear? You may be wondering that. So I'm going to be sharing with you quickly my journey with fear. So it started when I was born in a war-ridden country. In fact, I had fear running through my vein when I was at a younger age. I remember crossing the borders of the city from one side to another side. I had to go through landmines. Eventually, I ventured out and I wanted to become an international person. So I moved to Australia on my own at a younger age, and I fell in love with the country. And I wanted to make that my home country, but it wasn't possible. So again, I had to challenge my uncertainty, my fears, and get resourceful. And I ended up studying to become a cook, which was not related to the career path I was looking into. And I did that, and that's how I got qualified to remain in the country. And I made that my home. Fast forward several years, I have secured myself a job, very interesting one with Toyota, where I stayed there for a few years, and I was quite comfortable. Perks, security, everything you could imagine. But I had this value in me to become an international person, to continue becoming an international person. But the stakes were very high. It was too much of a competitive interest for me to lose. So I stayed where I am for a few more years until that pain of not taking that step became so much so that I started experiencing mental challenges. So that's how I ventured out, and I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I started working for Louis Vuitton. I started with them in Dubai. And although it's an eminent company, but I was moving to a place where I don't know if I'm going to be able to, get along or adapt with the new industry. if it's going to suit me or not, or different country. But my wish was to become an international person, and they say, careful what you wish for. Did I become an international person? So I end up living in 5 countries in total, 3 with Louis Vuitton. My last assignment with them was in South America and Brazil as the CFO for South America. But my values, my desire in life have changed. As you grow, as you evolve in life, your desire changes. And my new desire was to, follow my passion for kind of helping people and supporting people at a mass level. So I wanted to become a coach and a mentor, but it was too much of a competitive interest to lose. And I blocked that. And I stayed where I am for years and years, once more, until that pain of not doing that became so much so that I could not tolerate it anymore. And that's how I ventured out to step out of corporate, become an entrepreneur, and start my mentor and coach practice. So the reason I am mentioning that to you, because I have firsthand experienced several moments in my life where I had to deal with fear, I had to deal with uncertainty, I had to deal with taking risks. And I've learned through, never mind the education that I've had and the formation that I've had in NLP, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as coaching, but that's how I end up creating my own model through my own journey, through my own experience. So now moving on, I want to talk about the negative belief system. Earlier in the video, one of the ladies, they were talking about the negative belief system. So what is the negative belief system? The negative belief system, ladies and gentlemen, is that belief that you have in you today about yourself based on a past experience that happened with you. It could be a traumatic experience, but it is definitely a negative experience. And 99% of the people that I come across, most of the decisions that they make today, the ones that are driven by fear, the underlying foundation of that fear is that negative belief system. So it's that story in your head that you're not good enough, you're not worthy. In most of my experience, these stories start at an earlier age. And we keep on carrying that story along with us in our life for a long time. So you don't want to move forward in your life always looking at the rear view mirror of your life, because eventually, you know what's going to happen. You're going to end up crashing. And you won't be able to muster the courage to step out of your comfort zone. So I want to also share with you a tool that you can utilize, which is the cost of inaction. What do I mean by cost of inaction? It's the cost of not progressing with attaining your desire. So your brain, in fact, when you are experiencing a negative emotion, as we saw earlier, that inner negative talk, the saboteur, start talking to you and telling you, stay where you are, don't move, don't move. You'll be better off staying where you are. Don't cross the line of fear. Don't come near it. But when you start understanding what would be the cost of inaction if you don't do anything in your life, and you continue with the status quo after 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, whatever it is, you want to amplify. If you are feeling conflict inside of you, if you are feeling discomfort inside of you right now, amplify that for the next 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. How would you feel? How would that make you feel? And then already you have introduced to your brain a different notion. So now when that negative talk is telling you this, you're going to remember, but if I continue doing this, it's going to be not a favorable future. I'm going to share with you a story. ladies and gentlemen, there was that simple man that wanted to venture out and find what he calls the gate that gives him access to the law. Now, the law is that space where you can gain wisdom, is that space where you can gain prosperity, where you can gain success. And all of us and every one of us want to have access to this law, right? So as he was venturing to and traveled a long distance and he got to the gate of the law, when he got there, he was confronted by a gatekeeper. And it was a very intimidating, large specimen of a man, gatekeeper, standing there. And the simple man approached him with all humbleness. And he told him, Mr. Gatekeeper, I want to access the gate of the law. And the gatekeeper told him, you cannot have access to the gate right now. Maybe later, but right now you cannot have access to the gate. So this guy decided to sit on the side and wait. Perhaps someone would come in and would gain access to that gate, and he would watch and learn how did that person got access to that gate. So the man ended up staying next to that gate for weeks, for months, even for years. And he started building a relationship with that gatekeeper, where every time he make an attempt to access the gatekeeper would tell him, if it tempts you so much, you can try. In spite of my prohibition, you can try, if it tempts you so much. But I'm telling you, you can't access. Years went for more years and decades until it got to a stage where the man became frail and very old, and he was close to his time of death. So knowing that he's gonna die, he called on the gatekeeper and he asked him, Gatekeeper, I'm about to die. I have one question that I want to ask you. All these years, I was waiting for someone to access this gate, and no one made an attempt to access the gate. No one is interested in accessing the law, the prosperity, and the wisdom. The gatekeeper looks at him and he laughed with pity. And he told him, this gate was only created for you. No one else could have access to it. And now that you're gonna die, I'm gonna close it. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have gatekeepers inside of us. We all have gates that we wanna cross. And depends on how much do you wanna nurture that gatekeeper for him to take control of your life, or you want to be on the driver's seat. The choice is yours. So going back to the best version of you formula, we spoke earlier that a lot of people stay in that vicious circle where they're feeling comfort and then they have that desire, and if there's too much risk, they will be confronted with fear and they will default back to comfort and they stay in that vicious circle. And as we said earlier, that can cause mental health challenges, the least to say. Now, this desire, I normally use the metaphor of a flame. So imagine that you have this flame inside of you that represents this calling, this desire, and it's been flickering all the time. Therefore, the burning of that flame within you wasn't strong enough. But as you progress in your life, years and years, ignoring that calling, the flame stability will change, and the burning sensation will become stronger and stronger until you get to a stage where you will have two options. Either remain in that state, and you can take that to the end of your days and numb your fear with antidepressants or whatever it's going to be, or you would take that leap of faith and cross the line of fear. And that's how you get to transformation. Now, when you get to transformation, automatically you are in a new space. Because if you want to start a new job, if you want to let go of something that doesn't serve you, if you want to change something or acquire something new with that desire, the moment you cross the line of fear, you're already in that space. So therefore, you are already transforming. Now that can take some time for you to adapt to a new, comfortable space. But your comfortable space is going to expand. So this cycle here, in fact, is not a circle. This cycle here actually is a spiral up. That's your evolution. You could start your life with being in your comfort zone, cross the line of fear, and then get to transformation. And then you have a new comfort. Cross the line of fear, get to transformation, then another comfort. And that's how you grow larger and bigger and larger and bigger. I say everything that you ever want is on the other side of fear. All your desires, all your tendency for growth, that dream job, that venture, that side hustle is on the other side of fear. Now, looking at some practical tools to combat fears. We spoke earlier about how to, move away from fear. Now, in order for you to combat fear, you need to realize that you need to move closer and practice that fearlessness muscle, small steps at a time, small step at a time. And the same way we spoke about what would be the cost of inaction if you don't move forward, fear disables you sometimes from thinking about what would be the benefit and the advantage if I cross that line of fear and actually I can have a partial success, if not even a full success. What would be the benefits and the advantage then? Once you list these down, I normally rate them from 1 to 10, where 10 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. Once you have that information, this also is going to give a signal to your brain that perhaps it's not that bad, it's not that scary what's on the other side of that fear. It might give you some better visibility. So we are trying to introduce information to your brain, to hack into that brain, to try to make your fear weaker. Another thing that you could do is to connect with the best version of you. Let me invite you for a second to think about a time in your life where you were so proud of yourself. So much so that when you think about that moment, you even get the shivers. Think about a time when you were in control, when you were in the flow, when you were in the zone, where everything was working exactly the way you wanted. Think about what got you to get there. Think about What steps have you taken? Your mental state. If it was an achievement, if it was a promotion, if it was something that you have worked hard for and managed to get, whatever that is, the moment that you actually got that thing, there was a voice in your head, similar to the saboteur, but it's the positive voice. I call it the commander. You can call it whatever you want. That voice, that positive, that powerful voice in your head when you were in the zone was telling you something that's how you are, that's who you are. Congratulations. So when you connect with that voice several times, with that memory several times, you also objectify it, you make it tangible enough that you can have access to it whenever you want. That can put you in a state, and here we're speaking NLP, that can put you in a state where you're going to be able to disconnect potentially from that state of fear, of weakness. The other thing which is extremely important, and it's a very important pillar in the foundation that you're going to be laying for how to deal with fear, is discipline. Discipline helps you become more assertive, especially when it comes to decision making. It enables you to become more focused on targets that you want to achieve. You can become more resourceful. It makes you more emotionally stable. It gives you clarity. And most importantly, it enables you to raise your standards. Now, what do I mean by raising your standards? If you going to the gym, let's say, is a should. If it's a should, then one day you could go, another day you may not go. But when you turn the should into a must, I must go. If I truly want, and I believe that this is going to benefit me, this is a must. This is my new standard. Discipline helps you to do that. It's no longer negotiable. This is a small example of how I nurture my discipline. This is a 30-day challenge that I follow every other month, just to give myself a break, you know? And there was a huge community out there on the web. If you just type in 30-day challenge ideas, they give you thousands of ideas. And the science behind it, they say it takes 21 days to build a habit. I stretch it a bit and make it 30 days. And you'll be surprised how you start adding to yourself new routine, new habits that obviously serve you. Or you start disconnecting from current habits that doesn't serve you. Community of OQPs, only quality people. Now, why is that important? They say you are the average of the closest 5 people that you have around you. Their mindset, the way they think, their character trait, their achievement. And there is even science behind that. They talk about mirror neurons, but that's another webinar altogether. But people that gets what you are doing, like a mastermind that understand where you want to go and support you, a support network that can guide you perhaps. And the last thing I want to share with you in terms of tools today is that 2mm step. Now, what do I mean by 2mm step? Let me illustrate that to you. This is based on cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. So I'm going to share a whiteboard and I'm going to use my skills for drawing for a second. So this is you. And this is your circle of comfort. This is where you live. And imagine that you have a desire that you want to achieve that sits here. Now, for you to go from here to here directly, you're going to be potentially stretching yourself, and that may not be sustainable. So the cognitive behavioral therapy teaches that if you take small steps, 2 millimeters outside of your comfort every single day, one step, 2 millimeters outside of your comfort, you end up building a new comfort. And then you keep going. Small steps, small steps, small steps, small steps. You build a new comfort. And what you are doing eventually, you are destroying your old comfort and creating a new comfort until eventually you get to that step that you want to achieve through still continuously taking small steps. If you go to the gym every day, and every day you look at yourself in the mirror, you're not going to see any changes. You will only see changes a few months from now, say 6 months, if not even a year. But you will do that if you're still going every single day. So that's the same thing. If you want to be facing your fear, taking that massive leap of faith, similar to what happened to me and many people that I know, because of pain, is not going to help you enough. It's going to stretch you. But following a specific model framework that can get you out of your comfort zone, small steps at a time, that can enable you to confront larger fear and expand on your comfort. So if we go back to the story of our friend, Dr. Sam Coe, who wanted to practice unconventional medicine and he didn't want to be employed in a hospital, even though he had a clear career path. Because of the fear of regret of not following his passion, he ended up quitting his job and he started his own clinic doing unconventional medicine. So he became a actually key person of influence in his domain and the ketamine infusion. And he is leading this industry in North America. And now he's doing seminars and he's becoming a reference. So quite successful in what he does. So it wasn't too bad, the other side of fear. So the last poll for today, and that is my promise to you. So I'm going to be repeating the poll of the choice. What would be your level of choice today? If I can get you to participate, how would you score your level of choice, knowing that you can make the call? From 1 to 10. 10, you have all the choices in the world. You are driving your life. You are in charge. You are in the driver's seat. I'll leave it for a few more seconds. Okay, so the results are there. If you recall, we were between 5, 6, and 7. and now we are 7, 8, and 9. So really congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. I commend you for your time and energy that you have invested to show up in this call and this webinar, because you followed your curiosity, because you want to learn how can you combat your fear. And to combat your fear is actually a combination. Not only, I saw a comment on the chat, not only to combat him, to also weaken the fear. So by introducing new, different information hacking into your brain. And the last thing I want to leave you with is I want to challenge you to take 5 fearful small steps outside of your comfort zone, knowing that these steps can benefit you. And to make it more official, choose an accountability partner, someone who you would tell him that I'm going to be making these steps and I'm going to be making them by that date. Now with that, I would like to thank you for your time, for your investment of time. Please connect with me. You can scan these barcodes to access my profile on social media, or you can follow this username that I use always. It will be a pleasure. And if I can ask everyone to leave one word that describes your experience today. And also, as you're doing that, I'm going to be sharing with you an offer. For the first 5 emails that I'm going to be receiving, they will get 50% promotion on a small group workshop that I do related to how to deal with overcoming fear and procrastination. So we will be going a lot more in depth, and there will be actually some intervention happening. It will be a small group, normally 5 people. So if you would like this offer, please email me on my email. Otherwise, the content of this webinar and a lot more, I have written a blog that speaks about fear and overcoming fear. If you can scan with your phone camera this barcode, it will take you directly to that article. Thank you so much for your messages. Appreciate your time here. And now I'm going to open it for any questions, any interaction. Anyone would like to pause any question? Go ahead.
Hi, Laurent. This
Hi,
is
Neil.
Niels from Tokyo. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, maybe for those people that maybe they came late, that we have a session on the 27th also with Laurent. So for those people that came late, you will have a chance to meet Laurent again on the 27th. I posted a link in the chat in the Tokyo Professional Network group. I just wanted to mention that in case somebody came late, that they don't panic, maybe they missed the best part of it or something like that. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. Someone was saying that they were not able to scan my social media barcode. If you just go on any of the 4 social media channel and you look me up on Laurent Kababi, that's how you can find me. Okay, so hope to connect with you, everyone over there. I put a lot of content there. I put a lot of webinars, in fact, podcasts that I get involved in, articles, and so on and so forth. I would love to connect with you there. Anyone have any question? You can raise your hand, or you could leave it in the message in the chat box, and I could read it out loud and answer the question. All right. Thank you everyone for the comments. I really appreciate it. I didn't have any question yet, as far as I see, at least. So I'm gonna try to type in my name. So again, I'm getting questions that people cannot find me on social media. If you just look up this name here, Laurent Kababi, and I will leave this information on the page of Internation as well.
There is a question from Ricardo.
Ricardo, where is it?
How to identify a fear is the question, or the fears.
How to identify our fears. Very good question, Ricardo. So throughout this webinar, one of the steps that we have made is to actually name the fear. So the first step is to actually clarify and identify the fear. So in the coaching work that I do normally, I will be trying to identify with the person. I will be trying to identify with the person, first of all, the circumstance at hand that he or she is dealing with that bring him fear. So if this is the case, let's say the person wants to quit their job, and I try to understand a chain behind. It's a series of questions that I make, trying to understand a chain. What's the chain of emotion behind this thought? So if the person didn't get that job, what would that make him? What would that define him as? So if that would define him as a loser or failure, let's say, or unsuccessful, then we can go, if you are unsuccessful, then what does that mean about you? And we start following that chain until we go deeper in the rabbit hole, obviously. And that's how we were able to identify what are the fears that the person is experiencing. So I hope that this has answered the question. Now I'm getting some more comments there. MJ, if you can be able to jump in, go through the chat with me as I'm. All right, so.
Yeah, there was another question from Inonge.
Okay.
Isn't it strange that having done a session like this, there should be a new sense of fear? Suddenly feeling panicky that one is really not doing enough with one's life? Perhaps it is just initial discomfort which gives way to courage.
Okay. So from what I understood from that question, that the person is feeling more panicky, that his level of fear has increased from this session. Is that the question, or? Maybe
Inonge, you want to raise your hand to clarify your question?
Yeah, if you don't mind doing that, or just unmute yourself and ask me the question.
Oh yes, that's exactly what I meant. What I want to ask is that when I'm finding that after the session, there's a feeling that I've already lost a lot of time, and that this fear, if I don't shake it off and just really move forward into a new reality, it'll be my companion into the grave, so to speak. So I guess what I'm asking is that, is it to be expected that there's an initial feeling of discomfort? Because I'm feeling that discomfort. But I don't know if that's normal when you are actually about to make a change, that there's a feeling of discomfort just before you do make the change, as opposed to feeling incredibly courageous and you just go for it. So that's what I'm asking. Is that to be expected?
Sure. No, fantastic question. Thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing the way you feel right now. I'm just going to illustrate with a quick metaphor, actually. I had a problem, an anecdote as well. I had a problem with my knee once upon a time, and I went to a osteopath, And he told me that in order for me to deal with the problem, I need to flare up the pain. I need to understand where is the pain is coming from. So you're going to be experiencing some pain, and from there I will be understanding that which part of your knee is that pain coming from. Now, I'm not saying this that, you know, it's okay for you to feel the pain right now, but the point is, what is it that you're going to do about it? Now, you have mustered the courage and made the investment to show up today for an informative session about how to deal with your fear. Now, the next step is what steps you are going to make in order for you to deal with that. So here I have shared several tools, which is, instead of going through, you know, large fearful steps out of your comfort zone, take some small incremental steps of fear, of discomfort out of your comfort zone. In cognitive behavioral therapy, what they do, if someone has trauma with, let's say, from the outside world, I even forgot how you call that, they get him to take every day small steps out of his home, small single step, and then come back home again. So the best thing you could do at this stage is to think about, with the current capacity that you have, what is it that you could do in order for you to deal with your fear? But the first thing that is very important is to actually know, what is the fear that you're dealing with? Who is the enemy? What's the source of the enemy? And this is not something that could be resolved over a webinar, obviously. So I guess that's the recommendation here. But listen to that voice inside of you right now. Listen to that voice that is making you feel that panicky feeling. What is that telling you? Go within it. I don't know if you journal or not, if you journal your thoughts, but try that. Someone once told me, in fact, there was a tool that is very common. They say 10-minute journal. And what it is, for 10 minutes, you write down your thoughts and you don't stop until you put an alarm for 10 minutes. You write down your thoughts. You don't stop until the alarm goes off. Even if you don't know what you are talking about, you're just going to keep on writing. I don't know what I'm writing about. I don't know why am I doing this. And eventually some thoughts going to come out. The declutter in your mind is going to come out. I'm feeling fear. Why am I feeling like that? Where is that coming from? What's the source of that? And automatically you are objectifying. Right now you are identifying yourself with your fear. Is eating you out. Is part of your subconscious. Is taking control of you. You need to objectify it, Inongi. I hope that this has brought some kind of a better support or clarity. Any other questions or comments?
I collected some other questions from the chat. There were some questions at the beginning. Mateo says, more than anxiety for me, I think it's the low ability to deal with stress, low propensity to factors that bring stress. How does one improve this?
Well, the first thing I could think about is you need to work on your foundation. You need to work on your pillars, on your structure. We spoke about community. We spoke about discipline. We spoke about understanding what is going on in your thoughts. As long as you don't know what's in your thoughts, you are being identified as one with your thoughts, you're not going to help yourself. But if you start with taking some small fearful steps, work on your discipline, do the 30-day challenge. I challenge you to take a 30-day challenge of something that you want to stop or something that you want to take on, and go online and look it up. There is heaps of options of what you could do for 30 days. So is that small steps that you do outside of what you are, the way you are living today, that's going to be enabling you to progress and potentially break free. another question. MJ, thanks for your help, by the way, with this, MJ.
So there's Sarah. Can I make a difference where we live too? I guess in a big city, people are more stressed and anxious. In a countryside or village, there's less anxiety.
Sure. No, definitely. So this is you letting your external environment determine your emotion. So it's one of the slides where we said that you got emotion and you got feelings, and the awareness of this emotion is the feeling. But as long as you are just experiencing emotion and you're not working on being conscious of what is going on inside of you, all kind of external factors can control you. I understand that living in a big city is quite intensive. I lived in Sao Paulo for 4.5 years. You know, it's got the population of all of Australia. So it's obviously hard to do that. I mean, to navigate through that. But what is it that you are doing on the side for you to bring yourself back? You know, because the city, the work, the environment, the family, the kids, everything can distract you, can distract your energy. You can be all over the place and you'll be depleted. But outside of work hour, that time that you have left, what are you doing? Are you spending it on Netflix, or are you spending it on beating on your craft for you to become a better version of yourself? Whatever you need to do, there are myriads of tools that are out there. Any more questions?
We have Monique. How do we actually know that fear is stopping us from taking action, from moving forward?
Good question. So this is obviously will be incorporating a conversation, because if we are talking about a case of procrastination, let's say, they say underneath most procrastination, there is a negative emotion. When you think about the task that you want to be doing and you have been hesitating from doing it because of, let's say, people call it procrastination. There is a negative feeling attributed to this task. And when you experience that negative feeling, automatically your brain is sending signal to you that discomfort. And then you would avoid it. And that's how you end up procrastinating, by doing something completely different. And if this is the case, underneath that, there will be a fear. Unfortunately, in most cases, when it comes to us not having, let's say, the ability to make a decision to move forward, there could be some kind of a fear that is underlying this, I want to call it disability of not being able to move forward. I hope that clarified. Okay, any more questions, or do we want to wrap it up?
There is one more.
Mm-hmm.
If the fear is based on the possibility of getting sick in this unprecedented time, then it blocks everything. And there's another one connected to that, is basically the same question. How do we stop worrying right now because of maybe a new wave of the virus and this thing?
Sure. So can you just repeat the first one? Because
if the fear is based on the possibility of getting sick in this unprecedented time, it blocks everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is, how do we stop worrying in this time of, is it going to be a new wave? How do we deal with these times?
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same thing. You will be surprised how much that small steps that you do, that foundation that you lay out for yourself, help you to be able to deal with uncertain times. And sometimes you want to look at uncertain times as potentially opportunity, not a discomfort. So, for example, I spoke earlier about hacking your brain, because your brain, when you're dealing with uncertainty, your brain is telling you there's something unknown, something unknown, something unknown. I don't want to be crossing that line. But when you think about what could be the potential benefit of that, what could be the potential benefit of that in the future, and you focus on that, that could actually gives you a different perspective. Like I said in one of the first slides, fear actually warps your mind and put that cloud. You just have to break it down and unpack it and break it down into small pieces and try to understand what it is. Where is that coming from? Meanwhile, in parallel, you are continuously maintaining a healthy, strong routine. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone. Niels made the comment and left the link for the next webinar. Follow me on social media, please. It'll be my pleasure. Anyone who's interested to participate in that offer, in that workshop that I'm going to be putting together, please send me an email and we can talk more. If you would like to talk about potential coaching with me, also we can have that discussion. Otherwise, I send you all, you know, my positive energy, and thank you so much for showing up and making the time to be here, and congratulations for whatever you have picked up from here.